Your program will begin shortly. Launch sequence. Activate. Warning, the following content is not politically correct. Viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome back to the channel today, everyone. I'm Sarah Higdon. This is Transform to Freedom. Hope y'all had a good week. It was a good weekend for me. Got to do some stuff. Got to go to the farmer's market. Got to hang out with some people that I haven't been able to hang out with in a little while. So it was a good weekend. Was able to kind of get some relaxation in. But yesterday actually was really, really cool because I went and I met Pamela Geller for the first time. And she gave me the book. Her book you see behind me, and I wanted to give a huge shout out because Pamela Garfield, I'm sorry. I wanted to give a huge shout out to her because she's we were looking through the book, kind of talking about all the issue of all the gender issues and stuff like that. And the name of the book is called A Practical Response to Gender Distress. And I really enjoyed the way that it's laid out. It lays out everything that people and mostly parents need to know if their children are dealing with some sort of gender questioning issues there. And it lays out the ideology in a way that it just makes sense for people. And so we looked at it. I can't wait to really dig into it and read more of it. But if you are interested in supporting some good people like Pamela, go and there's a link in the description for the book, so you can go do that. Buy it. It's on Amazon, and just helping good people who are doing good work out there. So yeah, definitely go check that out. And yeah, so there's some stuff going on. I mean, so this year Pride has kind of been a little bit interesting. I think we talked about it a little bit last week. We've seen Pride taking kind of a back seat that we haven't seen. Like last year, it was kind of like overboard, and I think we're starting to see a wind down. Like the craziness is starting to really kind of wind down, but remember, we still have some of the bigger Pride events happening in the next couple weekends, so I'm not gonna speak too soon because there could be a lot that comes out. There was an event in New York. I just saw a picture Gays Against Groomers posted that one of the Gays Against Groomers New York people, they took a picture, and actually there was it was very inappropriate, but like a mom was holding her hand over her child's eyes as like naked people were like walking by, and it was like, you know what, maybe this mother will now understand like why we've been saying for so long that like at this point kids don't belong at Pride. And I've said for quite a bit, like you can have kink at Pride, you can have kids at Pride, but you can't have both. And that's the reason why, like, it's become so much that like Pride is not for kids. I don't even really see a huge reason for Pride anymore. There's really no rights that we don't have as LGBT people. And at this point, it's just gotten to be so focused on children and pushing these narratives. And Blair White had a video last week. If you saw it, it was like, you go to Pride and people assault you if you're even an LGBT right-wing person out there speaking. Like, people don't want you there. So Pride's not for everyone. I'm probably not welcome at Pride due to my views. I know that Gays Against Groomers Georgia, they also had a video from this weekend where they got kicked out of a Pride event because one of them was wearing a Gays Against Groomers backpack, and they had a hidden video of that because and what was going on there. And what I started to realize is listening to a lot of these people explain to the hidden camera what was like about puberty blockers and all this stuff. And it's just, I do believe that they're either willfully ignorant because they haven't gone out there to actually see what the issues are with it, or they're just blind to the fact. I don't think that many of these people are actually out there pushing the ideology. I think that they're ignorant to what is actually happening. And so when you actually talk to them and you say, well, what about this? When this is happening, they can't really answer because they don't think it's happening. They don't think like what we're saying. They don't realize that hormones, for example, sterilize a child at 3 months. And any male that goes on estrogen is generally going to be sterilized. Is going to be sterile after 3 months. So I don't think that people completely understand that. And that's what they're doing to children. But this kind of came up because there was a video that circulated just yesterday across Twitter. Hey, Christine, yeah, you're right. I mean, I had to cover my face last year when I was covering Pride here because I expected people would know who I was. So it's a little bit different. Yeah, you can't. There's certain things you can't do at certain Pride events. But there was a video that was circulating yesterday online. I watched it, but I want to play it for y'all because this is kind of the backbone, and it just is everything that we are kind of talking about. And it's a perfect example of like what we don't like, what the representation that we don't need. This is it. And this is completely one of those situations where you are pushing this onto children, and it's not what needs to be happening. So here, I'll pull this up real quick. If you haven't seen this, so this is actually the Kickstarter. So this person is trying to get they have a Kickstarter now. They're trying to raise money so that they can bring back this channel that they used to do called Queer Kid Stuff. And just right off the bat, when I look at that, I say there's no such thing as a queer kid. Kids don't have sexualities until, they get into puberty. Their sexuality is not defined, nor should they. So there's really no such thing as a queer kid. But I don't understand like anybody who really wants to teach this, like be talking to children online. It's predatory behavior. And so I don't really get this, but let's watch the video on the Kickstarter. So I didn't take the video off Twitter or anything like that. I went straight to the source, and here it is.
Hi friends, I'm Mix Linz.
And I'm Teddy!
We're the original creators of Queer Kid Stuff, an LGBTQ plus web series for kids and families. You might recognize me from my TED Talk, from my books, or even from my work in mainstream preschool media. We started Queer Kid Stuff together in 2016, and we've been spreading queer joy ever since. But it's been a while since we put out any new episodes. And that's about to change.
Woohoo!
It's finally time to bring back Queer Kid Stuff. We're launching a Kickstarter campaign to reboot the web series so we can keep spreading queer joy and combat hate. We're going to bring Queer Kid Stuff to life like never before, with new music, animated segments, field trips to awesome places like your local LGBT center or even a gender-affirming doctor's office.
It's gonna be awesome!
I bet you're wondering why we want to bring back Queer Kid Stuff now and why it's so important. A lot has changed since we made our last video in 2019, both good and bad. And we want to meet the current moment by affirming LGBTQ+ kids and families, nurturing allies, helping people better understand trans and non-binary people, queer history, and we want to expand the series into conversations around how queer issues and kids come together across all social justice movements.
Whoa, that sounds so cool, Linz.
Teddy and I have changed too. I came out as trans and non-binary and got gender-affirming surgery, and I have a lot more experience under my belt as a creator and person making queer stuff for kids. We're crowdfunding because we want you to be a part of this journey with us. By backing our Kickstarter campaign, you'll get exclusive rewards like behind-the-scenes digital downloads, awesome merch like temporary Teddy tattoos, and stickers, and even a one-on-one hangout with Teddy and me.
It's gonna be so much fun!
So why are we so excited to crowdfund?
Excuse me?
Because we believe in the power of community. We've seen how much queer kid stuff means to so many families, maybe yours included, and we want to make the queer kid stuff we've always dreamed of. Together, we can spread queer joy and combat hate, one episode at a time. All you gotta do is back the Kickstarter.
Yeah. One-on-one hangout? Like, as if all of that wasn't like bad enough. Like talking about so now that you were non-binary, you came out as trans and non-binary, whatever that means. And then you talk about having surgery. You're talking about doing field trips to gender affirming clinics for children, but then you want the one-on-one. Can somebody see how does this person not see how like creepy that is, how problematic that is? Like, look, like I said, how do you define a queer child? What is a LGBT child? Because they said that they use LGBT in there too, right? So what is an LGBT child? What is a gay child? Why are you sexualizing children? Because that's what you're doing. To know that you are sexually attracted to somebody is to know your sexuality. So to know that you are gay means that you know that you are a male attracted to males. But children should not be stuff. They shouldn't be thinking about this stuff. They don't know what their attractions are and their sexuality is. They don't need to know that stuff, and you are sexualizing those children. Now, my friend Ariel Scarcella has talked a little bit about it before too, like knowing like romantic attraction, but not sexuality. Like there's a difference. Like knowing growing up that you are romantically attracted to, you know, a certain sex is different from being sexually attracted to a certain sex. And knowing that, you know, you may be a little bit different, like when you to like girls or boys, depending on your sex, then it is a little bit different there. What I will say though about this person, when I watched this video, there is a part of me that feels, it almost feels sad. And I say sad because I just have to kind of question the trauma that led to this point. Because there has to be some trauma that puts this person into a state of childhood to want to do stuff, present stuff to children, to literally use a teddy bear and talking with teddy bears and thinking it's cute and all this stuff. Look, there's multiple types of people out there, and it's either this person really is just a predator, and I think that I don't know, it could be. I'm not going to say that they're not. I'm not going to write that off. And they want to have close access to children. But then there's this part of me that thinks that that some sort of trauma happened in this person's youth, and their youth was stolen from them. Almost like a Peter Pan syndrome that you could see, because no other reason why I would think that you would want to be in this kind of children, making this content for children, other than basically those two things. I do want to talk about one thing. So raising queer kids and their allies, like again, kids don't know that they're queer. So how are you raising queer kids? I've not read the book, so I can't really analyze what's in this book, but I'm sure it's not great. But if you wanted to really know, and this is something that was pointed out to me yesterday, this is more about the ideology, and we'll talk about that in a second. But like we'll go even further into this when it comes to the queer, more about like leftist ideology and indoctrination into a leftist ideology. If you look, let me see if does my cursor show up here? Yeah, here it is. If you look at this book right to the left of the teddy bear, where my cursor is, that book says, "What is an abortion anyways?" I'm sure that was intentionally placed there because anybody who sets up a room like this and does videos like this generally intentionally creates the room that they want. They set up, they put the books that they want behind them for specific reasons. Again, this is not my entire book collection. These are the books that I present for specific. And yes, I have left-wing books. There's a queer theory book on the very left. There is Saul Alinsky. There's the Communist Manifesto, and then where we have End of Gender and stuff like that. These books are intentionally placed where they're at in my studio. This person didn't accidentally put what is an abortion anyways if they didn't want people to know that they were teaching children about abortion. Children. Again, this is kid stuff. This isn't even young teen or teen stuff. This is kid stuff. Children. And there's an abortion book right there. So yeah, LS420 Stoner says, is there any way we can distance ourselves from these creeps and try to show the normies that we just want to live free and not harm anyone? Well, that's what I'm trying to do here. I agree. Like, I've got it to the point where I'm like, I don't, it's not a community anymore. So this is kind of off topic here, but if you really realize, like, normal, and I've seen other people post this, but it's like normal gay, lesbian, trans people are not going to Pride. After 2015, when gay marriage was legalized, there was no reason for the LGBT people to fight. And so the normie LGBT people kind of just like left the fight, said, I don't need Pride anymore. Why would I go and do all this stuff? And so the queer activist came into the space, and now they are the ones that are creating the perception. Now we have to kind of fight for it, but there is no community. I mean, I've talked Blair White about this. She's mentioned it before. There is no trans community. We're not an aligned community. There's like we have some of the deepest divides within our community. Yeah, I mean, so Cola Berry says saw you on Jubilee, and so that's the thing is, if you watch that episode, you can see how deep the divide is in our community, because you watch other episodes of that show and people are courteous. It's a good conversation between two different sides. We were probably one of the most divided and controversial episodes that they've had. And it's because we don't have a clear consensus, and our divide is just as big as anybody else. But kind of going back into this and talking about the ideology of this, like I said, so you get the abortion book, but then you scroll down, and I had to start reading some of this Kickstarter platform to see what this was really about. Apparently, again, this has an LGBTQ plus. This person has an LGBTQ plus affirming parenting book, which is the opposite of the book that I had. I mean, I want to say the opposite. Get that book instead. And they literally wrote the book on how to talk about queer stuff and social justice. So again, social justice warrior leftist ideology stuff, and they're looking to indoctrinate the children as much as possible, like into, again, it's not just into queer theory. It's all about the issue is never the issue. It's about the revolution, right? So that's what we're seeing here. That's what this person's doing. They are trying to just get into the children's head and indoctrinate them into leftist ideology. So it talks about right here, what is queer kid stuff, right? And they flat out say it. They say the quiet part out loud. It's Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood meets Queer Theory 101. Queer Kid Stuff is an award-winning preschool web series featuring whatever Lynn's and best stuffed friend Teddy. Together, they learn what it means to be their authentic selves and spread queer joy. It's a preschool series about sexuality. I just can't with this, y'all. I can't. A preschool series about sexuality. Oh, God. Where do we go from here? Where do we go from here? I don't know. Like, if this doesn't wake people up more than anything, I don't know what will. A preschool series discussing sex and sexuality. Because again, you can't really have sexuality without sex, right? Because it leads into attraction and who you're attracted to. And sex ed. This is why you get the left is pushing this, comprehensive sex education that goes all the way down to like 5 years old. And when they say they're going to go to gender affirming clinics, they're going to go on field trips to LGBTQ centers, whatever that means, and show this stuff to preschoolers. Please, somebody just make this make sense, because it doesn't. None of this makes sense to me right now. Who in their right mind would think this is okay? What type of parent thinks this is what they want their kids to watch? And what type of person, what type of adults wants to promote this to children like this? Gosh. Oh, actually, let's see. Let's see what it says. It says maybe you're still wondering why. Why should we talk to kids about queer stuff and social justice? Is this going to answer my question? I don't know. I doubt it. But let's look. Research tells us that LGBTQ affirming spaces for young people literally save lives. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. Just general acceptance saves lives. Like safe spaces don't. And if it's going to go into the whole, suicide stats and everything like that, then that's not the own you think it is. But again, you're talking to preschoolers. You're not talking to, your average teenager who's dealing with most of this stuff. But it says 1 in 5 Gen Z identify as LGBTQ. I wonder why that is, because you don't really have to have a gay sexuality to be LGBT or Q. Like to Q is you can be straight and be Q. You just have to be, I guess, different from the norm. You just self-ID into that position. So if you want to fit in, you just say you're queer. And of course 1 in 5 are going to identify that way. It's Gen Z. They are following in a social contagion, right? I would assume that would almost say that the social contagion is happening because the adults aren't coming out like that. Millennials are higher than previous generations, but it's still not like new adults are coming out as it's become more accepted. There is this, social contagion aspect happening on social media. That's why Gen Z wants to fit in with their peer group, and they're going to identify as such. Let's see. The Trevor Project. Yeah, the also great Trevor Project, right? Who has had spaces that were for 13 to 24 that had kill switches. So when a parent walked in the room, they could delete their entire browser history, so the parents couldn't figure out what they were looking at and who they were talking to or what they were talking about. Yeah, that's the Trevor Project. I used and just a few years ago, I thought the Trevor Project was actually doing good work with their suicide awareness stuff, but when all this stuff, when they came up with this chat room and stuff like that, yeah, no, never again. But again, it's not the they're trying to say it's the bullying rate and everything like that, but that's not really it, right? Because LGBT acceptance is the highest it's ever been in our society. So it's not that the bully rate of LGBT people. Maybe it's the fact that we are, introducing adult concepts to children at preschool age. That there's all this stuff, all this social justice warrior stuff that they feel like they have to burden and they have to learn about, and it scares them. And so they feel, possibly hopeless when you're burdening children with adult concepts. Yeah. Yeah. So that's what's going on there. And of course, she has all the standard people, the Huffington Post, the Them magazine, all those people that are so good about acceptance and pushing for this. So they're trying to bring this stuff back. All right. I mean, this is insane. And thankfully, What's crazy is that there's been only 7 people have supported this, but 7 people donated over $5,000, which that's fairly impressive for such a small group. There's probably some. It seems like there's 88 backers. Never mind. Still, 88 people thought that this was worth donating some sort of money to. Again, I look at this person. I just think there's got to be some trauma there. It needs, yeah. This just needs to. How about we don't? Like I said, go read that book. That one. Don't read this book. Well, I mean, go ahead and read this book. Actually, I would say do read this book, Rainbow Parenting. And the reason why I would say it is the same reason why I have the Communist Manifesto on my shelf, is because you need to know what they're putting out there. You need to know how they think, what they're teaching people, and so you can combat that. I think you have to read what they say and understand it. Pamela's book will teach you from a perspective of reality. Theirs is from a perspective of indoctrination. So yeah. God, that was a long rant, right? But yes. Thank you, Robbie. So Robbie with a $20 super chat just says, love you too. You are amazing. I appreciate that so much. As we try to keep this thing moving here. I appreciate all of your support in the chat and everything like that. So let's move on though. This is, again, I'm already halfway through the show and it's like we haven't even scratched the surface of all the insanity that's going on. But that was a big one. But if you didn't see this one, now in Spokane, Washington, 3 teens were arrested, and apparently it's a felony charge that they were arrested on after they rode their the Lime scooters and left these tire marks on the road. And they were arrested for this, for defacing public property. Listen, y'all. If you don't want tires, if you don't want marks on your symbols, don't put them in the fucking road. Like, that makes no sense. People drive on roads and tires leave marks. Like, literally, it's one of those things where, like, I just don't get it. I don't get why you think that, like, putting something on the road is like the best place for it. If you don't want people to vandalize it, don't put it on the road. Here's the thing. I remember growing up, you first get your driver's license, or even just like riding on the scooters, and we used to ride 4-wheelers and all that stuff. And if you know, like, where the road is painted, it's the easiest place to let your tires loose, right? So even like the little white strips on the road, like where at a stop sign, you got the little white strip right there that you're supposed to stop at. If you put your tires on that and you gas it, it's going to be easier for your tires to slip than if it's just on a regular pavement. So if you want to do donuts, where are you going to do it? Oh, there's this big giant mural painted on the sidewalk that's going to make my tires slick. I'm going to do it on the mural. And you know what? They may have been doing it because they thought it was fun and cute, and they weren't thinking about it as necessarily a hate crime. Again, they're kids being kids, thinking, this is fun. I don't know anything about these kids. Were they the people that would in the past would use the word queer as the insult? like we knew it when I was growing up. Who knows? But they thought it was funny. They weren't thinking about it as a hate crime like they're being charged with, but they're being charged and arrested for first-degree malicious mischief. So let me see, where is this? Here. So, and you can see the video. Let me see. Did it pull up? Yeah. You can see the video. They're just rolling around, hanging out, doing their thing. Like, that's what they're charged with. Malicious. Like, 15,000. They asked for a $15,000 bond. And actually then Lime Bikes made this whole sexual intersection a no-go zone. Yeah, Ronnie, you're right. That's why we don't let the American flag touch the ground. I'm like, you don't see American flags painted on the ground. Why is that? Maybe because we have a respect for our symbols. We have a respect for the American flag. That's why we don't paint it on the ground everywhere we want to put it. It doesn't, like, yeah, why would you put something that you had respect for on the ground? It's almost like the anti-respect. Like, why would you put that on the ground? It doesn't make sense. It really doesn't. Now, this is the crazy thing. And so Andy No said, so left-wing Washington State Governor Jay Inslee signed legislation to make it a felony to deface a public pride symbol. The punishment is up to 5 years in prison and fine up to $10,000. So basically my response to this, though, is, okay, so you make it a felony to deface a public symbol, a public pride symbol, and then you put said symbol in the middle of the road. Kind of seems like entrapment. Kind of seems like you probably did this on purpose, knowing something like this would happen. Seems like entrapment. And you good for you. You are going to ruin some kids' lives for having a little bit of fun that really probably didn't mean any of it. And what's even crazier about that is you have these pictures of Lafayette Square, which is the monuments in Lafayette Square right next to the White House. They have cameras graffitied up, free Gaza stuff, all this stuff. You have videos side by side. You have the people painting those, and these kids, they're the ones that are getting charged with felonies, and there was no arrest for painting and what they're doing to these monuments in Washington, D.C. Our historic monuments in D.C., painting Free Palestine, all that stuff on it. And yet, the ones on the left are the ones with felony charges. The ones on the right, not even arrested. This is how you know that. So, what's really happened is that we know people on the right generally have a moral compass that that guides them. People on the left can get away with whatever they want. If you are for the right cause, you can riot and burn buildings like they did in 2020 with nothing happening to you. You can firebomb a police training center here in Atlanta, and that's still like going on and be released, right? So we're still going to see what happens with that. But you can have all that stuff happen. Yet, but we're also a red state. Yeah, in DC, no arrest. So one's a hate crime, one's protected free speech, even though one is far worse vandalism than the other one. One is a monument that's erect vertically that they had to paint. The other is a painting on the road which you drive over. It's made to drive over, and it's going to get dirty. Again, make this make sense. Wubsy Dubsy says, I live in Canada. Yeah, I really feel for you. I really feel for you, because if I thought it was bad here, yeah, there is no free speech over there. If you're on the wrong side, you're on the wrong side. There's a double standard when it comes to. There's a double standard. When you, if you're not on the side, the right side, yeah, you, and that's the thing is, people that are, right-wing prosecutors will prosecute right-wing individuals for their crimes. But left-wing prosecutors will only prosecute right-wing individuals for their crimes. And that's what was really interesting is when I posted, I said, if you don't want people to make marks on things, don't put them on the ground. Don't put things you respect on the ground. Somebody said, it was some leftist came into my mention saying, if you don't want to go to jail, don't vandalize stuff. And I'm like, square that circle when you look at the monuments being defaced, when you look at what happened in the riots of 2020, businesses and everything being lit on fire and destroyed. Yeah. But let's see. And I want to say, I'm trying to think. So I want to say that these, like this felony is punishable up to like 10 years or maybe 15 years in prison, and like up to a $10,000 fine. Now they're minors, so you're not going to see that type of punishment on it, but it just doesn't make sense. Oh yeah, here it is. Prosecutor asked, oh yeah, that's $15,000 bond. Let me see. I mean, this could have been any kid. Any kid could have done this, whether they were, like anti-LGBT or whatever. It could have been anybody. Just thinking it was funny.
Just saw this group of teenagers deliberately
charged with one count malicious mischief.
Turco had his first appearance in court this afternoon. The judge released him under the condition he doesn't go near the crosswalk or the other teenagers. Prosecutors, though, had asked the judge to set a $15,000 bond since that's how much it costs to repaint the mural.
The community really came together to raise the money for them to be able to do it before the parade on Saturday.
Now this vandalism just hours after that repaint and only a few weeks after someone else set fire to the mural.
It sucks to be reminded in moments like this that there are still people out there that, have hate in their hearts for other people. So
it's not. I don't think that's hate in their hearts, honestly. And they just had to repaint the mural. Tire marks don't need to be repainted usually on these things. Usually they're fine. Yeah, $15,000 bond over some skid marks on a street. It's kids. You're right. It's kids. These types of things don't make sense. But last one about indecency in Pride Month. Now these things have been happening for quite a while, but here you go. This is this one's from Canada. This one's from Canada. My friend Beth, who does a lot of good work out there, and she bit the bullet on this one and covered this naked bike ride happening in Toronto. Like, is this appropriate? No. Like, come on now.
Less gas! Less gas! Woo!
What compels somebody to do this? I don't get this. And here's the thing. I think a lot of the leftists and a lot of the people like this, their whole purpose is to make people uncomfortable. That's what a lot of, I think, the leftist activists want. It's not about any of that. It's more about making uncomfortable. And why the naked bike rides? Why would you feel comfortable riding a bike out in public in front of probably your children are gonna see you naked, like we've seen in past years on these types of things? Like, somebody's gotta make that make sense to me. I don't get that. I don't get it. It seems like some sort of fetish to just make people uncomfortable, that you just want to be naked out in public. And can somebody tell me how, like, that just seems uncomfortable. Not for me, but like, it just seems like that would be like riding a bike naked would be uncomfortable. I don't even, no, not for me. Whatever, ask when I'm gonna be on Timcast IRL next. I don't know. That is up to Cassandra. Yeah, you're right. So LS420 Stoner says that, don't they understand that making straights uncomfortable is what generates blowback against the community as a whole? They don't care. Their whole point is to divide. Like I said, the revolution, the cause is not the cause, it's the revolution. They understand that pushing queer theory right now is the easiest way to it's the easiest way to push this Marxist revolution, because it's the thing. It's the thing that everybody's talking about right now. They want you to be uncomfortable. They want everybody to be uncomfortable, because they need you to be uncomfortable. They need division in order to execute these massive plans that they're trying to do, trying to move the Overton window to their side. They've overplayed their hand quite a bit. And I think that's why you're seeing everybody start to reject and go the opposite direction. But that's really what it is. They need people to be uncomfortable in order to push their ideology. And here's the thing. In order for, we're so divided as it is right now. You have Republicans and Democrats fighting each other, right? You have left and right, all these people fighting each other, so divided that it does. If the right is against something, most people on the left are going to be for it. There's not very much that they're crossover there, and so they really are more worried about causing a reaction from the other side to get their base riled up. So it really is the Streisand effect in a lot of ways, to where if I go out and if you go out and do something like this, it gets a lot of outrage, but that outrage ultimately it gives you more attention. And they say no publicity is bad publicity, and this is exactly why. When people try to cancel somebody, on a on like, so say now with Twitter being more about free speech, if somebody tries to cancel you, it's really not that big a deal, because guess what happens? There's always, like, it just grows your platform. Your platform gets bigger because people are trying to cancel you. So it's really not that big of a deal, which is what they know. They know if they can get the attention, if they can get the clicks in the algorithm, they can get this boost. They don't care. It's either growing their brand, and in some ways it's growing their pocketbook, because it's just getting them more attention. This is kind of my whole thing about, like, pushing people like, who was it, Lily Tano, who I talked about before, who I did the Disney person a couple weeks ago. Their whole platform, Dylan Mulvaney, their whole platform is now seemingly to generate outrage clicks, which puts money in their pocket. So the more they're able to upset the others, like one side, the more people go and click on their videos, which gives them money. That's what's going on. I think that's what's going on in a lot of ways. That has to do with the making people uncomfortable. People will go to their side. People will have their backs simply because, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. But along those lines, though, like we said, things are changing, and we had this video, or this story about the American Pediatric Group, which has made some strong demands for the major medical organizations to reject child sex changes. This is a good thing, right? Now, this is not the what is it? The American Pediatrics. This is the American College of Pediatrics. So the American College of Pediatrics, or pediatricians, which has, I'm pretty sure that they were founded more as a gender critical organization, because and to be on the other side against the American Association for Pediatrics. It was the AAP, I think. So this isn't actually that surprising from this organization, just knowing that this is kind of where they've been for quite a while on here. Now, let me pull this up. We'll pull up the video. This is the full video, so we'll play it. Why is it not playing? It's not playing. The sound's not working. I don't know. So, well, basically they were like, they're citing it for being harmful practices. And for them, this includes social affirmation, puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones, and surgeries in adolescence. Now, it kind of goes to social affirmation is the one that I would give pause on. I think that children can dress however they want, and but what people I've also quite often said that a social transition is also not a zero-sum game. When my first op-ed I ever wrote for Human Events was about the sunk cost fallacy in gender transition, and it starts at the moment that a child changes their name and pronouns. They've already created this system where people are now invested into their new identity, and there's an investment into their new identity, and forcing people or asking people, and people have complied, or some parents may have gotten in a fight with grandparents, and just over this name change and pronoun change. And so it's hard to turn back and say, hey, I made a mistake, when people are already advocating for you like that. And so social transition is not a zero-sum game, but at that point, there is no medical intervention. And so it is like one of those things where I think get them to adulthood to where they can make their own decisions. and just let them explore who they are, and let them know that if they change their mind about this, then that is fine. I think that's one of the only ways that I can see going with this. I don't, because I think a lot of times we just need people. We also need to accept gender nonconformity. I think gender nonconformity needs to be okay. And unfortunately, too often, once you peel back the onion on some of the people that are making these arguments, they say gender nonconformity is not okay either. I don't agree with that. Yeah, Robbie, I agree. So, I gotta even say, I was talking to somebody the other day. I said, I'm almost grateful that I came out in, first person I ever came out to was in 2014. I was quite a bit older. And this was before the gender craze really hit. Gender craze really struck in like 2016, became a trend. And then I saw it on Reddit. When I got banned from Reddit groups for saying transgenders exist, and when the detransition rate skyrockets, it's going to hurt actual trans people. This is in 2018, but I came out in 2014. And I can say I'm glad I did when I did. Because anybody who's coming out now, it seems like they're doing it for the trend, even if they are actually dysphoric. And like knowing how I was when I grew up, I wouldn't want to transition now. I would have kept it a secret forever, because it was not a trend. It wasn't, socially the way it is now. And now it's like anybody who, even if they are dysphoric, they're not going to. They're it's going to be so hard for them to even come out, because nobody's going to believe them, because everybody's going to think that they're just doing it for a trend, even if they're not. So that's the sad reality that the leftists have created, is you've made this trendy. And most people, if they really are going through it, they don't want it to be celebrated. They don't want to be, it to be their entire personality. The people that are actually going through it just want to like just transition and move on into society. But that's not what the leftists want. The leftists are using this, they're appropriating this for their ideology to perpetuate this harm. And yeah, and so going from the American College of Pediatrics, or pediatrician, urging this, now we have the amazing organization, the Southern Poverty Law Center, has now expanded their hate watch to basically all doctors who oppose childhood sex changes. So included in the list is Do No Harm, which I've had conversations with, GenSpec, which I've had conversations with, Partners for Ethical Care, which I've done events with when I was up in Wisconsin with Chloe and stuff like that. Jeanette Cooper from Partners for Ethical Care was there. We had a good conversation. And the Society for Evidence-Based Medicine and Gender Medicine. And basically that places them alongside, actual like white supremacist organizations and actual extremist organizations. I'm pretty sure Gays Against Groomers made the list again this year. I realized last year they were deemed a extremist organization, and they actually quoted me in the SPLC, which I'm honored, because when the Southern Poverty Law Center comes after you, it's generally a badge of honor, because they see you as a threat because you are a voice against them. You're a voice for reason usually. See, this is the problem, is you have organizations that are trying to do good in the world, and you deem them hateful, and you put them against actual hate organizations. So their labeling means jack. I mean, they place these organizations. I mean, Moms for Liberty was tagged by them. It's just basically the SPLC has also taken a stance against groups that oppose drag queen story hour events and stuff like that across the country. Now, I did a podcast earlier this week talking about drag queen story hours and why I believe that is like typically that is what we would consider grooming. Because yeah. Southern Poverty Law Center is it's an interesting topic. Now, I actually really wanted to talk about this topic. Going away from the trans stuff, and I didn't mean to talk for the whole hour on trans issues. But here's more. This is actually a topic of. This is free market capitalism right here. This is why like raising the minimum wage doesn't work. Price cap on food doesn't work. I saw somewhere an organization, the New Democratic Party or something like that in Canada was pushing for price caps on food. Doesn't work. All a price cap on food does is create scarcity because nobody's going to make it they're not going to put out the product that the amount of product because they don't make a profit off of it. It's not worth it. What happens in California? They sign a $20 minimum wage. What happens? 10,000 people have already lost their jobs because companies, especially like we always kind of look at the minimum wage workers, like fast food workers and stuff like that. The costs are too high to even think of paying somebody this like $20 minimum wage. And so you have to cut costs somewhere. So if you can automate the job, you automate the job. People lose their job that way. Or the business just can't maintain without raising their prices. So again, price fixing along with minimum wage increases causes shortages because nobody can even compete in these markets. This is what happens when you remove the market, the free market system. People don't get paid. They get paid more than what their labor is worth, and then they lose their job. So good job, California. You've now proven why minimum wage hikes don't work and why they don't work on a mass scale is because then you have to like the cost. So not just this. So $20 minimum wage. What does McDonald's do if they have to pay somebody $20 minimum wage? In order to pay for that $20 minimum wage, your $1 burger goes up to $5. So it causes inflation. So it's either it causes inflation or you lose jobs because you can't pay for it. They can't pay their employees that amount. People think that there's this high profit margin. This is exactly like this is why these things don't work. So again, like I said, thank you. Why your policies don't work. And now we watch Argentina to see why libertarian policies do work. So yeah. Last on the list, I had a bunch here, but this is fine. This is the last one that's really that important. A Democrat has now basically advocated for the gulags for Trump supporters. Anytime you hear re-education camps, that is a call to the gulags, right? So, said, yeah, so this was a New York Democrat running for Congress. Paula Collins made the comments. who said this. Let me see. Pretty sure I had this pulled up. Here it is. Okay, it's not playing for me again, so I don't know why this isn't working. But basically, she said if we were to have a resounding blue wave come through, as many of us would like, putting it all back together again after we've gone through this MAGA nightmare and re-educating, basically, which sounds like a re-education camp. I don't think we'd want to call it that. I'm sure we can find another way to phrase it. I mean, that sounds like a communist statement to say that you need to send people to re-education camps too, so that they go along with your ideology. Go read 1984, which is another book I have right there too, right next to the Communist Manifesto. Go read 1984. Re-education camp is where they sent the main character in. This is where they send you to camps so that way, and if you don't change, if you're not re-educated and you're still, yeah, MAGA nightmare. Lisa Uncensored says MAGA nightmare. The only nightmare is what the left has caused with all their hate. Yeah, we talked about the hate crimes earlier, right? The people, the anti-Israel crowd, the anti-Jewish, the people who are conflating Israel and blaming all Jewish people for what's going on in Israel right now and all that. If they don't like what's going on, what Israel's doing, they conflate that with all Jewish people. So there is a lot of that type of hate out here. They're not getting arrested, but make some tire marks on a flag that you put on the ground. Yeah, they'll put you in prison. That's what's going on today. So, all right, y'all. I appreciate y'all joining in today. Yeah, it's kind of a crazy episode. Y'all know I don't like to talk about trans issues too much, but today was what is Pride Month, so let's just go with that. But I do appreciate y'all joining. If you haven't already, make sure you click that like and subscribe button. Follow me across all. I will see you next time.